If you've ever wondered what your daughter will remember about you or what your wife wishes you understood, this conversation is a must listen. In this episode, I sit down with Megan and Angie, founders of Front Row Moms, to get a rare perspective from the other side, the daughter's view, the wife's heart. They open up about the kind of presence they craved from their dads growing up and how those early experiences shaped what they now need and want from their husbands today. It's honest, it's emotional, and it's filled with insights that will make you a stronger, more intentional father and a better partner to the woman beside you. If you're the kind of man who leads with love and wants to grow, this conversation will challenge and inspire you. Let's get into it. So good to be in conversation. We've been talking about this for a while, and we're finally doing it. Meeting for the first time in person, which is really great. So I want to begin with your relationship to your dads, and which I don't know. This would be great because I'm coming at this with total fresh curiosity, as all of our listeners will be hearing about it for the first time. So, Angie, let's start with you.
Okay.
What was your relationship like with your dad? Really broad question there. Take that wherever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really fascinating question because I actually don't know my biological father. So my mom had me when she was really young, still in grade 12 in high school. And so she made the tough decision to keep me, which I'm grateful for. And then we moved back home to her home. And then my grandparents helped raise me and her a bit. And then my mom moved out. And then when I was about 2, she met the dad that I know. And so then he adopted me when they got married when I was 3. And as any young kid does, I think, they kind of push boundaries. And I think when I found out, that I was adopted, I think
Which was how old?
I think I found out, I feel like I was, I don't know, 9, 10, 11. I think it was around then. And then when I became a teenager, I actually was like not a really great teenager. And I used that against, you're not my real father. But my dad was my dad physically was a very big man, but he was an incredibly gentle soul. Great sense of humor, loves his family. He still have my dad, and he's the only dad I know. And it's interesting because people ask me all the time when they find out, and they go, like, so have you tried to find your real father? And I say, no. No. As I get older, I want to know, maybe for medical reasons.
Sure.
But I actually have no need or desire because he's my dad.
Right.
And so, I kind of got through that, got over that, matured a bit more. And he's just been he's always he's quiet. When he speaks, people know. And now I've, as any adult, we've kind of navigated different things through our life. And
What's a story that happened as a child with your dad that really you feel maybe today, as a mom, looking back, you're like, that story had a profound impact on my life? How did your dad show up for you?
I would say, I remember when I went to university and I'd come home, I don't know, once a month or something to do my laundry or things like that. And I remember I was dating a guy for a long time and we broke up and I came home and I was a mess. And he didn't have to say a lot for me to feel that he got it. He tried to just let me know in his own way that I get you, I see you. Whereas me and my mom, it was just question, talk, there's all these things happening. But he really just created the space for me to come to him. And he would do gentle gestures that around that season for me, like, hey, Dad, I got to move apartments. No questions asked. Came in, brought the truck, moved the stuff.
Yeah.
I'm moving for work. Dad, we're moving again. Okay. Brought the truck, moved the stuff, right? Dad, I need help getting this car. Came in, did he didn't say a lot, but he showed up in those moments I remember.
Is that how you felt seen and loved? was him showing up, or was it something else?
Yeah. Because he didn't talk a lot. He worked really hard. I know he worked hard. He cares a lot about his kids, and doing the right thing. But, I think, it probably would be where he showed up in those ways. I would say that's how I knew. Yeah.
Was there a particular value that maybe he demonstrated without talking so much that you're like, I totally got that from him? Is it the hard work? Is it because you're a hard worker?
Yeah, I get that from both. Both parents are very hard workers. My dad was a business owner. He was really involved in his community, especially my brother when we started playing hockey. And he's someone it's interesting. I think about when I ask people and they know that I let them know that's my dad. Like, oh, he's such a great guy, really nice guy, really skilled he had his construction company for years. And he was like the expert guy on the backhoe or the hoe. Like he was the one they would call, really prided himself. And I think that that value of being really good at what you do, I think that would be something that I pulled from him for sure.
And kind of a vulnerable question here, but was there anything that you remember being a rupture or friction that had to be repaired either in that moment or later in life?
Yeah, my dad struggled with alcohol. Yeah. So, there's lots of moments as a kid that you knew, tonight's the night to stay in my room. And I was the oldest of three, so my experience was a little bit different. But he struggled with alcohol. So there was a different side of him that would come out. And he didn't deal with emotions in other times, but when he drank, he showed those emotions. And so, that was where you would also hear him say what how much he loved you, or things could go a little south. And so those were really hard. And I saw from an early age, growing up, I never saw my mom drink at all, but my dad had struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember as a kid looking around, seeing other dads in, your friends' lives, or wishing that there was something present that wasn't? Do you remember any of that?
No, it's funny. I don't.
Yeah.
No, I know. No, there's nothing that, even though I look back on that and I'm like, I guess I just, no, we always had, the interesting thing is, we always got everything we needed. Christmas was over the top.
Yeah.
I never felt that I didn't get something that, and not that they just gave it to me, but I never felt like, oh, I'm missing out on something.
Right.
Yeah, I never felt that. Even though this struggle with alcohol was apparent, I don't remember ever looking at another family going, maybe I wish we did that, or he showed up this way, or.
I think it was in my late teens. I had a neighbor, his name was Gary, a couple doors down. And I remember Gary would play basketball up front with the kids, and he had a boat, and he would take us out on the boat, and he was just fun. Now, I think it might be easier to see or experience another dad as really fun when he does not have the responsibility of being your parent.
It's like the grandparent, right? It's like
the cool uncle, whatever.
The uncle. Yeah.
So there's definitely some benefit of not actually being the dad, but I remember having some feelings when I was a kid. I was like, oh, there was a part of me that wishes my dad were a little more relaxed, like Gary,
right?
A little more laid back, a little more fun. Like he was the type of guy. My dad we would go out, and let's say we went to putt-putt or whatever, and we were like, can we go to the arcade? He'd be like, nope, just putt-putt. Can we get ice cream? Nope, just putt-putt. Like it was very much a bare bones type of experience.
Right.
I always call my dad, he's not the appetizer or dessert kind of dad. He's like, we order a main entree and we leave. Can I get a drink? No. Main entree, water, let's go.
Had a plan.
Yeah, that's it. And so Gary was like the appetizer, dessert, special drink kind of dude.
Got it.
There was part of me that wanted a little more of that, which
at 49, looking back, I actually really appreciate how bare bones my dad is. And I might be exaggerating for effect, and I might not even be remembering the story correctly. Like sometimes we tell stories of our childhood and we're like, how accurate is that?
Yeah.
You know, like maybe that happened once and I made it my whole childhood.
Big impact at that moment.
Yeah. So, but I do remember having that feeling a little bit. So yeah, very interesting. Have you explored the relationship of your dad a lot as an adult? Have you spent time looking back and remembering and experiencing all over again?
Something I'm doing right now, and as I say this, I'm like, oh man, I need to be better at this. So for both of our parents, I have 2 siblings, but I really want to capture more of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started last year with my mom. She's a little bit more tech, not a lot, but a little bit more tech savvy. And so she gets a prompt every week, and it's a life in the book. And so she's answered the questions. And then I started it with my dad, and my dad is not tech anything. So I gave him a few options, and I said, hey, so we can do this a couple of ways. I can send you the email. You answer the email. I can text you the question. You text me back the question. I can call you. I can give you the question. I can call you. You can tell me, and I'll write it down. He's like, I'll take option 3. And so, and I viewed this, and this is something actually that makes me a little sad in myself, but I viewed this as like, this will be my reason to stay more connected to my dad because he's older, and I want to hear these stories because he tells these stories sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would just be great. And I have fallen off of my end of the bargain to be consistent in calling him, and I've noticed the connection that I think we're getting and how hard it is for him to go into his past and his childhood. But I really, really want to capture, and I selfishly want to connect with him more.
For sure.
And so this is my way.
I want men to hear what you just said. I want to put a pause on this for a moment because how old are you now?
52.
Okay, so guys, listen to this. Angie is 52 years old, and she is saying that she wants to connect with her father.
Yeah.
Just hear that, men. Like, you know, occasionally when people hear about Front Row Dads, they'll hear about our mission, and they'll say, oh, I wish I would have found you guys when my kids were younger. And I just want to grab that man and be like, no, man, you found us at the perfect time, because it doesn't matter if your kids are in their 30s or 40s or 50s. Your best work can still be done. You can connect, you can have experiences, you can ask questions, you can go deep. It's just different. It's just a different form of connection.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to hear you say that. And I have the same desire with my dad. You know, I'm 49, and I want to create experiences. I don't think it's over for us. Like this could be the best years.
Yeah.
We could have the deepest part of our relationship. Like my marriage, you know, people would say, oh, it just gets better over time. I'm like, I think that's something you tell yourself to convince yourself that you made a good decision to get married, right? Like
that it'll be better.
Trying to recruit other people into this prison of marriage. And that's what I would think early on. And then now Tatiana and I have had our deepest connection ever in 18 years this year, the deepest, most truest, most authentic form of love. And I think that's true in humans. Like there's an infinite amount of connection available to you, and you can always pursue deeper and more meaningful. You're different, they're different, and it's just beautiful. So I'm really happy for you to be in pursuit of that. If you had to, my last question, and then Megan, I'm coming to you to talk about your dad, is if you were to give advice to the men out there listening to this show who are girl dads, you know, having been brought up as a young girl who's now a very successful mom, you know, businesswoman and wife to an amazing man, what would you say to the men out there? Like, hey, do this or don't do this. Maybe it's a habit, a ritual, a belief, a value. What advice would you give to men out there who are trying to raise amazing women?
I think I would say expect the best. Expect a lot from your girls. They're capable of a lot. I think sometimes men, and I'm generalizing, in my experience, can expect more from their sons and their daughters. And so I would remind them to expect a lot from their daughters. I think one of the best bits of advice I was ever given was the board meetings. And I think the one-on-one time as best you can, depending on how many children you have, but there is something really special about a dad and a daughter and time they get together and they see things and they bring out different things in them. And so even though she is going to get busy and she's going to have other things, create the space to keep those one-on-ones.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
You said you were feisty as a teen.
Yeah, I wasn't nice. I was mean.
So
I was mean.
What would you say now to the dads who have feisty?
Hold space. It's going to get better. I was just mean. I was mean. I wasn't nice. I valued my friends more than my parents. I was not nice. And I'm just really grateful that they held some space and they held boundaries.
Yeah.
And they were tough. Like, not tough as, they, this is okay. That's not okay. We didn't like each other for a while.
So are you grateful for that now?
Yeah.
That they had some spine,
I am so grateful. Yes,
Yeah.
I am so grateful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I really had to have someone remind me of that when my kids were doing it, where I was like, oh my gosh, she hates me, and they're like, and then I was reminded, oh my gosh, I hated my mom.
Yeah.
But I think, as a dad, there could be a tendency to coddle. And I'm not saying don't have that connection, because there are kids, but expect a lot from
There's a really interesting conversation in that space as a parent, and I know everybody goes through it, of how hard do you push? Meaning, like, how many rules, boundaries, constraints, or whatever it would be, do you put in place to support this child? Right? Or young adult or whatever. And then how much do you just let them experience life and give them free reign? And hey, everybody's got to learn on their own. Like, that is the constant balance of, I'm going to let you learn by touching the hot burner, but I'm not going to let you run into traffic where you get, killed and die and can't recover from that. And like, I'm not quite sure exactly how hard to push, when to give you space in your room, when to knock on the door and say, I know things aren't okay and I'm not going anywhere. That's a very difficult role to play as a parent. My parents struggled, I know, with me in my teens. I was not easy. And so I'm very sad about that now, looking back, and, understand we were all kind of doing the best we could with what we had, including myself. So, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the relationship is it's also special.
Yeah.
It's different than moms and daughters. And so I know I look at when, I love it when my husband and my daughter get to go do things together. They go snowboarding together. It's just, I love it.
Yeah.
It's different and it's wonderful.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that.
Thanks for asking.
Megan, let's talk about your dad. Tell me about your relationship. What was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting. So here in Angie, there's a lot of similarities in certain aspects. So my dad was he was also very quiet. So like, just not a big talker, but he's incredibly patient. But he's a workaholic. So he worked at my school. And so he, probably had like 6 jobs during the day: athletic director, driver's ed teacher. And then he taught like girls basketball, just all the things. So he was always working.
Hey guys, I want to share something brand new, designed for high-performing men like you who want to win at home, not just at work. Our team developed this program over the past 8 years by collecting the best ideas, strategies, and habits from hundreds of men. It's all in one place to give you the best results in the shortest amount of time, because if you're a married man with kids and a business, there is no time to waste. This experience creates deep transformation, not just taking notes and talking about change. It's about doing what matters now so you don't miss the moments when your kids need you the most. These opportunities will come and go very quickly. It's also about building a marriage that shows your kids what real love looks like, creating an environment where they and you thrive. Look, marriage is tough. I've personally walked the line of divorce several times, and without the tools I've gained from this community, I might not be married today. And it's not just about being a great dad or a husband. It's about fulfilling your personal mission, thriving as a man, making an impact through your work, gaining time freedom, financial freedom, traveling the world, and giving to the causes you care about. This program is designed to keep you mentally, physically, and spiritually strong. You do not need to do this alone. Our badass community of intentional fathers are going to help you raise the bar. You're going to learn from each other, hold each other accountable, find your blind spots, and achieve success most dads will never see. It's time to dig deep, gain clarity, and create real change starting now. If you're ready to evolve, visit frontrowdads.com today. We've got limited spots available for this brand new program.
But I realized that he really did the best he could. So that at that time, right, you don't have a lot, and it was just a different time period where, father worked a lot. My mom worked as well. But I felt like he knew he had to take care of everybody, so take care of the family. So the working was going to come with it, which definitely led into, when he was working at my high school, he knew everything I was doing. And so me trying to get away with things, and I put my parents in a ringer as well, and was definitely the black sheep of my family. There were 4 of us. I was number 3, third girl. And, looking back, I'm like, wow, I really put them through everything. But I also am happy now for the boundaries they set. I mean, they were really hard on me, and with sports, with grades. But then also I wanted more freedom. And then because I didn't get that, that's where I rebelled. And so I think looking back now, I'm like, maybe there could have been more of, this is why we're doing this. And, we want to put a structure in place and maybe just a little more leniency so I would have that trust with them. And so instead, I definitely went the opposite and was like, I'm not going to talk to you about anything because I feel I can't.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little lacking. But now I see as I get older, want that relationship with my dad. I talk to him more about things, talk to him about the kids. It's definitely a whole different ball game now as I get older, looking back and also see why they did the things they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel were the most powerful words, that he spoke to you? Do you recall any statements he would say over and over again, or questions that he would ask? Or was there anything that was a verbal affirmation of his love for you?
I think just spending the time. I think it was more time instead of words. He wasn't very there were not really any I love yous in the family. This can get really, when you start talking about your parents, geez, it really brings up a lot.
Yeah.
I think more of the time. So it wouldn't be so many words, but just, spending time doing something together was his probably love. His affirmations was more of that, not so much with the words.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite times?
Oh, probably just, we're very active. So whether, he'd be running, I'd be on my bike, go out for putt-putt, things like that, go out for ice cream. Even him teaching me how to drive, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about, this gets sensitive, I know, so feel free to navigate this however you want.
Sure.
But it's the real stuff.
It is the real stuff.
Yeah. Where was the pain? Where did you not feel loved, or where was the rupture and the hurt in your relationship with your dad?
Yeah, I think it was just, it's funny because I think it was more of the not having that connection to be able to talk, not having the open space, feeling like I couldn't tell them anything. So definitely leaned a lot on my friends, and that was my big support system growing up. Was I had a lot of friends because that was my support, or other people's parents, where I felt like, I could share with them. They're not going to judge me. They hold an open space. It's a little more safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of, I'm about to ask a question that I'm just going to use as a model for sometimes how men learn in our community is they just hear stories of how men showed up, what they did, and then they can replicate that, or things they want to avoid, right, and not do. When you looked at other dads, did you see examples of things where you're like, that's so beautiful that dad does that thing with their kid? Was there things that you witnessed as a child that you knew were great great fathers and how they were showing up. Did you see that?
Absolutely. I think just seeing, hugs, hugs or kisses or I love yous, just, having that time to talk about your day and holding space for that and just being present and open to it and listening. I think a lot of times at the end of the day, my dad would be so tired. He's like, I'm just going to watch TV.
Yeah.
But that was just his thing to be able to chill out. And so sometimes you just didn't have those discussions or deep conversations where I definitely saw that with a lot of my friends. And I was like, oh, that's really like they're talking about things I probably would never talk about with my dad because I was like scared to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your love language now as a woman words of affirmation?
It's actually, I think, more quality time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. I realize that as I get older, it's the quality time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And how's your relationship today?
It's good. It's great. Yeah. It's like, as Angie said, like as you get older, you want to do more things with them. You want to have that time. It's funny. My dad has never really asked to go anywhere. And he was always talked about Niagara Falls. He's like, I just want to go to Niagara Falls. And so I set up a trip. So we're going in end of May. And so I'm like, I set it up. I got some of the family together. I'm like, let's go.
That's cool.
Everybody's getting older and has things to do. And it's like these things, when we do talk, we talk more now than we did before, even if it's not as often. We'll have deeper conversations, even just if it's about the kids or if it's about things they're doing. I think it's like it definitely changes as you get older and you start realizing like you don't have that much time. So honor it.
What advice would you give to men out there who are trying to raise wonderful women?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same, like, especially, I see it now, especially with some of my friends having daughters and I only have sons, is being there for them, being an open ear. There's so much coming at them as a female, and there's so many different things than we had as kids, which I'm glad we didn't for a lot of that, the social media, the technology. And I think just being an open ear and not trying to fix everything, but just being there to support. I think support can go a long way. And being present, just finding that way with everything that's going on, having that presence and letting them see you and have that time and that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are your kids now?
9 and 11.
Okay. So boys, girls?
2 boys.
2 boys. So you have 2 boys. And how long have you been together with your partner?
Almost 17 years.
Okay.
Married,
cool.
yeah.
All right. And so what do you see your husband doing with your 2 young boys that you look at and say, he's crushing it as a dad?
Yeah.
Like he's doing, I admire him so much, or my kids love that. Where do you see him succeeding?
Wow, there's actually so much.
Yeah.
He's killing it as a dad. I mean, he works so much, but he wants to be so present. So he knows those times of like, I'm going to blow off work, I'm going to do this. And he is to the point of the expectation is, oh, Jeremy knows that he's going to go do this with the family, or he's going to, he will do this first. And his, people he works with understand that. And that's really impressive. He loves to just take them and do sports things or go outside or just take them one-on-one. He just finds things that they're into. And even if it's just playing video games one night and chilling on the couch. But he likes to be involved. He volunteers at the school, even though, again, he has a packed schedule. And he's like, I just want to be there with them. So just seeing those moments that he puts them first is really incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's if he were to hear this, if he does end up listening in, or I even think like down the road, like for people to know that their loved ones, their spouse would talk about them in such a way, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. What do you think? Did he have a good relationship, by the way, with his dad? Did he have a good example?
He did. Yeah, he did. His dad was military, so he was kind of gone a lot. So his mom definitely raised a lot of him. And there's definitely parts of his dad now that he sees where, okay, I know he did this. He was very stern with this, or he was short with me on this. He has a great relationship with him now. He understands how to, I think as we get older, he took more of the approach of how do we get the best of them and not try to focus on the things that really annoy us because, again, they're getting older and you want to be able to be there with them and just appreciate that. So yeah, he definitely had a really close relationship with his mom. And then with his dad, it was the best that could happen at that time. And now you just definitely see where he tries to take care of his dad at this point. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I look forward to meeting them.
Yeah, I'm
That'd
excited
be
for you
really
too.
cool.
Yes.
And let's talk about Warren for a second also as a dad. What do you see that he does that you know in your heart works, or maybe your kiddos who are now what age?
19 and 16.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So things that maybe you know for a fact that they've told you have positively impacted him. How is he a great dad?
I think from the get-go, it's his intention and his desire to make sure that they know they are so important. I think that, it's been wonderful for him to be in the Front Row Dads community. I think that it really helped him prioritize, that this has to come first. And there's things that are his things. Like there's, I will teach them to drive. You will not, Angie. It's a little thing in our house. He's like, that's my deal. I'm like, I got it. My husband is, I would call him the jack of all trades in terms of any sport you can think of, he can do.
So true.
And so I love the fact that he's the fun guy.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy that's like, get on the unicycle. Let's do the unicycle.
Yeah.
He's the one that's on the one wheel that's, my kids try these things. He's the one that's, so he is really keen on, and he has an appreciation for just the beauty that's around us. I'm too busy on thinking about the next thing. And he's like, look at the bird. And I'm like, what? And he's like, so our kids, I think that, our son is incredibly artistic. And I think some of that comes from some of Warren's ability to see the beauty in things around us. And he works so hard at wanting to be the best dad. His dad, he grew up in the military too. And so they moved a ton. His dad worked a lot. And when he reflects, he had a very limited, I think, relationship, especially as a kid with his dad. Met lots of kids, and he really he works so hard on like learning things and how do I communicate this better? And he really wants to show up and want them to know how much he loves them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great man.
Yeah.
Very proficient at many things.
Yes.
So knowledgeable in so many different areas.
He knows things that I'm like, why do you know that?
It's
wow.
incredible.
It is. And it's, he just loves to learn.
Yes, 100%.
He loves learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
How would you describe him in the way of how he shows up for you? And maybe we can even take the angle of like Mother's Day, type of days, birthdays, or special moments for you. So speak now, if you would, to your marriage and how he shows up for you. Where is he winning? What are his positive habits? What is the recipe that other men listening could maybe take something out of the playbook of Warren where he's winning with you?
He's constantly thinking about what I need. Like it's, yeah. Yeah, he is like, he is the epitome of we are first, our kids are second. So I say he always wants to make sure but he really is, you are my person. And like he's constantly the one that's like, comes to hug me. He's the one that's like, tells me he loves me. He's the one that's like, what can I do for you? How can I make this easier for you? He's
He wants to serve you so bad. Yeah. I've known forever.
Yeah.
Meaning as long as I've known he and you together, which I don't even, a long ass time.
Very long.
A long time.
Yeah.
I've seen that. It's undeniable how much he really loves you, respects you, wants to please you. And it's something I've learned as a man over the years about myself. It's been spoken out into the atmosphere that we live in different ways, which is just how badly a man wants to please his woman. It's like, and I realize, I go, damn, that is true. I so badly just want Tatiana to feel happy and free. And that would make me so, so happy inside, right? Like I have a pleaser in me for her joy. That would just be That's my kink, by the way. Like people are like, what's your kink? I'm like, making my wife happy. Like truly.
That is his. And I don't think maybe it's how I saw how I was brought up. I don't know. And my dad, he did I saw affection but as we all have struggles and challenges, but Warren really, he is so good at making sure I know and shows up for me in ways that I don't deserve, I feel, half the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yes.
How about you, Megan? How do you feel loved by your partner? What's a recipe that we might be able to borrow from? What's he doing great?
Yeah, he's definitely big on because he knows I love the quality time.
Mm-hmm.
So even just when we're so busy and he just is like, hey, we're going on a date. And we go for lunch or we take a bike ride to do something, grab a coffee. I mean, just those little things. I'm like, oh, that's special. And even the past 2 birthdays and my friends' husbands are like, you're really setting us up for failure here, bud. He did a surprise, just set up a surprise get together with my friends and I didn't have to do anything. And so just the fact of showing up and I got to spend time with my friends and people I love, everybody was like, oh, like how does Jeremy's winning at that? Like it's just, he knows my thing is quality time. And even if it's just like, hey, a family day, whatever it might be, getting us together, doing something. And if I don't have to plan it, it's even better. So that's really special. He really finds ways to do that.
Where are you most attracted to him?
Oh, I always tell him his brain. I said, I love your brain. Like he can do everything for some reason. Like, and my dad wasn't like that. So I think that also is really attractive. He can, fix bikes. He loves to ride bikes. He can do stuff with the cars. He's incredibly smart in computers. He can help the kids with math homework and tutor them. I mean, he is just, but he also wants to continue to learn. And so I think that's why we are so attracted to each other. We're both not stagnant. We're like, we always want to develop ourselves. And I think that's what attracted us to each other, over 20 years ago is, wow, we both have this passion to do something. We never are happy just, I'm just good at doing this and it's fine. We always want to do better. And we always want to push each other and support each other to do better, which I think is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because it could be different if difficult, if one person wants to continue to exceed in something or learn something new, and then the partner isn't ready to support that.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of the relationship moving forward as well.
What's been a tool that you two have utilized in you said 17 or 18 years together?
Yep.
What has been a tool that's been helpful in bringing you closer together? Has there been a book, a form of therapy, something that has been helpful for you that others might be able to use?
That's interesting. So I think it would be as we both grow, we both are led to train. So we're doing different training or development type things. And then we would go to books. So one of us read a book, hey, let's, there's some things in the Smart Couples Finish Rich that I want to go over on our road trip up to the mountains this weekend. And we just would start putting out our goals. So we do try to pull in different things like that as in, all right, how do we help ourselves move past and go forward in this together? We don't go to therapy, which is interesting. I guess we don't. It's something that we try to, we actually are really good about talking together and being open. And if we realize there is some kind of communication flaw, we try to fix that. And I'm trying to think if there's any other exciting things that I think it's just the talking, the communication. And if we feel like one is lacking, you have to have a conversation and bring it up and just nail in the bud right there and move past. So,
all right. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus here.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble. And if there was something that he could do better, if there's one thing that you could wave a magic wand and change, what might that be? What would be a request?
So, and I tell him this often, so he's also working on it. It would probably be 2 things. So sometimes his patience, which he's over the years has truly, especially with the kids at first, it was a lack of, and now it's getting better. And then the certain types of communication. So I just need to know, did you drop the kids off here? Did you respond to this? Are you, if he's away traveling for work, just tell me you got home. Let me know you're safe. So that type of stuff, I think would be that type of communication is key when we're not together, just making sure I just need to know you're good. Then I'm good because I just, I'm thinking. So I think that would probably be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not about your marriage, but maybe in all of the marriages that you've seen, right? That you've been privileged to witness in this life. What do you think is either the key to making that marriage work from your vantage point, or you could approach it from what's stopping the marriage from working? So
Yep,
maybe
absolutely.
either of those.
Yeah. And I think it could take it back to, because I've lived in now two kind of totally different areas where the values are a lot different. So East Coast compared to Colorado, and East Coast is work, work, work. That's the main thing. And I definitely saw the struggles with the marriages there because the time with the family might not have been there. The priorities, the values were different. And even just moving to Colorado, I think it lends itself to more of everybody works hard, but how do we find time for our families first? How do we get that time together? And that value over the health, the family I see that a lot more. And I really do think that's a big thing that I've seen in couples that are happier together. The ones that we want to connect with more and be around more and surround ourselves are the ones that are putting their families first. We find healthy things to do together. It's just, you see those values as a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Angie, what about you? What do you see in other couples since you've had,
I was just thinking about this as you're asking that, and I'm like, I'm thinking from my own experience and from watching people that letting each person be their own person.
Yeah, huge.
I think I've struggled with that because, I've grown up in a business where have big goals, go big, and pursue those dreams, and you can make it happen. And I think what I neglected to see is that it would have been really hard for me to do what I did if my husband was the exact same level as me.
Right. Yes.
Because there wouldn't be time for family. It would be really hard. And I think looking back, I tried to make him be more this.
Yeah.
And if and all the things that I was attracted to him in the beginning, his sense of humor, all his things, that's what I loved about him. Soon became things that I was like, that's not funny. I don't like that. Why do you have to do that?
Yeah.
And now I look and I go, man, that's who I fell in love with.
Yeah.
And I just, if I can let him be him and he lets me be me, but we check in with each other routinely as to where we're going. Because I also remember really clearly, going to Date with Destiny when our son was 1 and Ava was 4. And it was the biggest eye-opening thing for me to go, oh my gosh, he is way more important than my children. Like I took away from that week of like I remember coming home from work and I would just go right to my kids. I would, and then I remember so clearly it was said, someday they will leave, hopefully. They will leave your house. And I am now almost in that space where you better still love that person.
Yes.
And I remember being like, I remember seeing other couples where they basically were co-parenting.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden kids left and they were like, I actually don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So we're done. And I remember being flabbergasted. Like, how do people get divorced after 30 years, 35 years, or 25 years? And I was like, oh, that's how it happens. And so I'm like, if there's not a conscious effort for us to be rechecking in with each other and like doing fun things together or us talking about our future and how do we stay connected? Because we're different people now.
Yeah.
And there's still this in us and there's so much there, but I can see how it's easy to just say, yeah, that's easier to just take another path.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't want to do that. No, for sure. But it doesn't magically just happen. Your kids leave and you're like, oh, okay, great, let's pick it up.
I must have learned the lesson 6,000 times, and I'm still learning it, to just let Tatiana be herself.
Oh, man,
It is so hard because I'll get it intellectually. Like, I get it intellectually. And yet I'm like, okay, I understand you need to be you, but you just need to change this one thing because that one's not working. Be you all the way, except for this one thing, right? Like, I was just going to tattoo on my arm, like, stop coaching, stop trying to change her, stop trying. And I realized how much effort I put into, slick, maybe manipulative, maybe like undercover, I'm not really trying kind of ways to get her to be what I thought I needed her to be. And what's interesting is I actually need her to be herself so that I can get activated and triggered, so that I can then go, why am I activated and triggered? Dig back, find the wound, heal that wound, and that is evolution. That is evolving as a person, is you have found a partner who is meant to poke at parts of you that if you are in an intimate, very close, very deep relationship will emerge, undoubtedly. And then you get a chance to potentially heal that. And obviously there's 1,000 theories on what that all means and, how this happens, one generation to the next generation. Somebody was just sharing with me, I wish I could give them credit. And I may butcher this, but it's about these mice that were studied, and they somehow there was a link to their nervous system and the smell of something. Like they ate like a rosemary or something and were shocked, right? And 7 generations later in the mice who had never been exposed to this shocking and, smell or taste or whatever it was, 7 generations later would smell the rosemary and their nervous systems would be triggered. Now that was just what was passed through their DNA. And I think about when people talk about generational healing, I'm getting a little off topic, but I think this is just an important point for people who are in a marriage to understand that, if you take the gift of the trigger, you take the gift of the friction or the rub, and you work with that and you heal that, you can affect generations to come, I believe, whether that's through DNA transference or through the energetic transference of your home and what your kids are experiencing or witnessing or feeling vibrationally. I think that's very, very powerful. It's not easy. I mean, marriage is not easy and relationships are not always easy, and they come
being
with
alone isn't easy either.
Being alone is not easy. Yeah. It's just
you choose your heart, I think.
Choose your heart. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd rather choose that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else either of you want to add or share to the topic of, fatherhood, as we've kind of explored from your dads to the men that you're married to and their impact on your children? Is there anything we left out that you wanted to share? Any stories or thoughts that came up for you?
The only thing I would just add is the whole on let them be them is, I think that one of the challenges as women continue to thrive in their career and they have more opportunity than maybe in the past. And if you're in a family that chooses that it is that attraction in the beginning came from because we were both in our inherent authentic energy, feminine, masculine, we were in that. And that's what brought us together. And then as you make decisions and compromise maybe on roles we have as we raise a family and we do things that by accident, and I'm speaking from totally personal experience, by accident, we can emasculate and we can squash that. And then we wonder why is it different? Well, that's why it's different.
Yeah.
So if there's not a pause to go, what happened here? Yes, we are people that can grow apart 100%.
Yeah.
But I think the more that we can examine and go, how can I honor who I am?
Yeah.
And get back to my authentic energy because it's been warped.
Yeah.
And how can I honor as well my partner to step into who they are?
Okay. I'm gonna click on this.
Okay.
Because I want you to speak to, if you want, the positives that have come from women empowerment in our world. Right. And lots of ways I can phrase that, but speak to the positives of that you've seen over time, but also if you see any or want to speak to any of the challenges with some of the, women empowerment and how that has affected men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the positives is that, now we have people, they have more opportunity. They can make their own money. They can make more money. They are not reliant. I think there's a ton of positives. There's fulfillment and purpose we get out of a career. I feel we get purpose from being a parent, but we also get a different purpose when we're really making an impact in the world. And so I think that's super positive. And I think the unintended consequence of that is that in my own experience, and I've seen it in other couples, is that opposites attract. And eventually, if you're going to stay attracted to each other, somebody's going to step into a different energy. And if the woman, especially if the workplace she's in is really favoring this masculine energy, which I think is a modern woman challenge, is that remembering that the feminine energy actually is more powerful. But sometimes we get warped because we're surrounded by men. So we end up being in this state and we use it, and we have both in us, but we use it a little bit. I've used it, let's just say more, that automatically puts the other person, my partner, into this more of a feminine. And then it's unattractive. And you don't know it. And I think that I emasculated him and didn't mean to, didn't want to. And then I was saying, oh, but step up.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so step up. Like, oh, but take care, but you need to do this and you need to do that. And then you got to get your career together. And it's almost like, it's a bizarre thing. It's almost like looking at the modern woman now going, have a career, be a great mom, be a great wife, be healthy, do this, be on top of it. And you're like, oh, maybe it was just easier when I didn't have a career. Kind of easier, but that, I don't know, and then you look, now personally, I look at that and I go, that's kind of what I did. And I didn't mean to, but I did that. And now I really want him to step into his own.
Yeah.
I want him to be who he is meant to be.
Yeah.
And he did amazing allowing us to do what we did, and, but then I really realized it when we got help and got a nanny, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And he still chose to, because of my job and what I chose to do. But I like, if you're going to choose to have a career and want to be in marriage and both have to, I think that being good with help takes a village to raise children. Man, when we had someone come in and help us, live with us and help, it just allowed him and I to connect on another level. And I forgot that I had nannies when I grew up. I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being like, oh, I feel guilty. This is, like his love, they just became part of our family. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it really allowed us both to step into us. And yeah, so I just think there's this very challenging, it's great because we have more opportunity and we don't need somebody. We all want somebody. We all want to share life. I think you and I remember being so connected on the statement that happiness is only real when it's shared. Like, it's cool to be there and I'm like, oh, I want to share that, and I really want to share my life with somebody. Yeah. But I am attracted to him in his.
So how do you not emasculate him now? And move this just a little.
How do I,
what did you learn from that process? So, and what's different?
Yes. Is that I need to let him be him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Comes back to that.
It comes,
This is kind of a core of, like, if you talk to 1 million people, I gotta believe this is at the core. This is a let them be them.
And that's who you were attracted to in the beginning.
Yeah, right.
But then all of a sudden.
In these moments, it sounds so simple. I will get home later today, and I'll still try to change Tatiana, I promise you. But I will learn a little bit more in this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. Okay.
I mean, and it's a work, I'm all the time. Yeah. And I catch myself, and I'm like, Angie, just let.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love who she is. I really do. I love who she is. It just, it just feels like sometimes who she is gets in the way of what I want. It's just, that's the honest thing, right? It's like, so she's like total free. I've said this 1,000 times on the show. Free spirit, just like, after she cooks, when she cooks this amazing meal, and I always love her cooking, right? Like, love the meals that the kitchen's destroyed. My OCD ass is like cleaning up after myself. Everything's put away. I'm like, I'm done cooking. I'm like, look, it's not that hard, It's so funny. It's so funny. So as much as I just want her to be her and you do you, it's like there's a part of me that's like, how do I control the situation still? How do I get a clean kitchen at the end of dinner? Yeah, it's
wild. It is, isn't it? I see him. He'll pause and know how to take a break, and part of me's like, there's stuff to do, And then I'm like, oh my gosh, Angie, that's you. Yeah. This is about you. This isn't about him. I'm like. It's this reflection. It's like when you had first had kids, you're like, oh, they're the biggest teacher and the biggest mirror, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then as they get older, now it's you and your partner, and you're like, I just gotta let you be you.
Yeah.
And
raising kids, like, who's really growing up? The kids or the adult?
Yep. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah, everybody's growing up big time. What do you think about all this that we've talked about?
Well, I think it's really interesting because when we started talking about our dads and then our husbands, I also think the generation of the age of our parents, there wasn't a lot of community like there is now. It wasn't okay to say, oh, I'm reaching out for help, or a buddy like, oh, I really want to spend time with my family. I just feel like there wasn't that, it wasn't there, right? It wasn't okay, like therapy or anything, any of that stuff to talk about it. So I think now just having spaces like a Front Row Dads community where you're like, ooh, I want to value my relationship, but I really am still a hardworking guy, but I want to be around men that feel the same way. And a lot of times I do feel like if there's, men are in these positions of either owning a business or in these leadership positions, they could be in a room with guys that don't feel the same way. And it's all work, no play, right? Completely stressed out. And they don't have that balancing act of, I want to, those are the ones that are all divorced, or they might not have kids, or they don't have that connection with them. And I think we've opened up this space now for men and women to be more open with it, to be able to share, to find people that have those same values. I just don't think it was there before. And so I think we're starting, when you said it starts by that generation, I feel like every generation now, we are opening those conversations up. We are opening that space. And people are willing to work on themselves. And it taps into, oh, okay, I have a little more self-awareness now that I can be the change. I can look back and blame all the things on what I didn't have growing up. But at the same time, I need to focus on what I can change and then do that with your kids. Right? So it's all this whole kind of domino effect. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for listening today, fellas. If you got value from this episode, I ask that you take 1 second right now and you share this with another dad in your life that you respect, that you know is committed to becoming a better man, family man, and businessman. And on that note, I want to honor you for choosing growth. Your family will thank you years from now for all the effort that you're putting in to learn the strategies so you can show up more fully for them today. Take care.